Good morning. Good morning. We will call the meeting. Is it on now? This is worse than old. Can you hear me now? Oh, first day with the new microphone. Okay, I have called the meeting to order. My apologies. Make sure my mic stays on. We respectfully acknowledge that the Township of Algonquin Highlands is located on Treaty 20 Mississauga territory and in the traditional territory of the Mississauga and Chippewa nations, collectively known as the Williams Treaties First Nations. We also acknowledge a historical shared presence of other Indigenous nations throughout the area. We recognize these original Indigenous inhabitants as the stewards of its lands and water since time immemorial. Adoption of the agenda.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Danielson, seconded by Councillor Barry. Be it resolved that the August 11th, 2022 council meeting agenda be approved as circulated.
All in favor? It's carried. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest today? Councillor Barry?
I'm declaring a pecuniary interest in item 15C. My husband has a contract with Dimensions Kitchen Staff.
Great, thank you very much. Item number 5, Mayor's remarks. I actually do have some remarks, which I have just lost. Here they are. My remarks today are this, a little story. In 1990, a young lady from West Guildford got the first of 2 summer jobs as a secretary in Stanhope, and she's blanching beside me here. In August 1992, she became a full-time management trainee. And over the next 30 years, that's 30 years, she gradually moved through the ranks to deputy clerk, planning administrator, interim CAO. And in 2011, she was appointed CAO. So on this August milestone, I'd like to congratulate Angie Bird on 30 years. 30 years with the township, and it's 32 if you count those 2 summers. Angie is a terrific asset to Algonquin Highlands, and it's been a pleasure to see how she's grown into the role. We have forged a very strong working relationship that has on occasion been a roller coaster. We certainly haven't agreed on a lot of things, but we've always found our way through respect for each other, for council members, for staff, and for the democratic process that we all work hard to uphold. So Ms. Bird, thank you for 30 years and everything you continue to bring to Algonquin Highlands. Are you gonna cry? Just for your common sense approach to the many changes and challenges we've seen, particularly through this pandemic, I think that really your leadership, staff leadership really shone through there. For your commitment to doing what's right. You have a very strong moral code and for always seeking better for the people and processes of Algonquin Highlands. So 30 years is a milestone, and congratulations to Angie Bird on that. You don't have to say, well, you can if you want. If you want to say something, you can.
I just want to say thank you. Those were very, very kind words. And it absolutely has been an amazing career. I don't want to sound like I'm retiring because I'm not yet. But I do really appreciate that. And part of that has been the amazing counsel that I've had along the way, and certainly the team that I have behind me. So I couldn't be the person or CIO that I am today without that. So very much appreciated. I did say to staff yesterday, it's incredible how 30 years goes by, because when I started here, I was not married. So since that time, I've got married, I've had 2 children, I've had a 25th anniversary, wedding anniversary. And so it's been absolutely incredible. So thank you.
Thank you. You're very welcome. Approval of or adoption of the minutes, please.
Moved by Councillor Sharpie, second by Deputy Mayor Danielson. Be it resolved that the July 11th, 2022 special meeting and July 21st, 22 regular council and public meeting minutes be approved as circulated.
All in favor? Oh, that's carried. Thank you. Public meetings are next. We have 2, so we have a resolution to go there.
Moved by Councillor Sharpie, second by Deputy Mayor Danielson. Be it resolved, council adjourns its regular meeting at 9:04 a.m. to proceed into a public meeting for the following: 1, zoning bylaw amendment application, Allen AHZBA 622, part of Lot 4, Concession 4, Geographic Township of Stanhope. 2, zoning bylaw amendment application, Horde AH ZBA 1021, part of lot 26, concession 4, geographic township of Stanhope.
All in favor? That's carried. We will bring in Mr. O'Callaghan. And we will also bring in the Allens, their agent, Ms. Harrison, and Mr. McGilvery, I believe. Mr. McGilvery is not here. Okay. Good morning.
Morning.
So this is a public meeting where Sean will take us through the application. I'll ask council if they have any questions, comments, or concerns. And then if after that you feel you need to add anything, we'll come back to you. So Sean, if you would take us through the application, please.
Certainly. This property is located on Northern Lights Drive. It's currently zoned rural and designated rural under the official plan. The lands are approximately 99.5 acres in area with 405 meters of frontage on Northern Lights Drive. Surrounding uses are generally rural and shoreline residential, and the lands are currently vacant. The applicant is proposing to construct a single-family dwelling. However, section 4.16.3 of the bylaw does require vacant lots to have frontage on a improved public street in order to be considered eligible for development. And these lands are accessed via a privately maintained road. So the amendment would rezone the lands from rural to rural exception 10 to permit the development of a single family dwelling on a lot without frontage on an improved public street. Notice of the rezoning was posted on the property, circulated to all property owners within 120 meters of the subject lands, posted on the township website, and circulated to all prescribed agencies. No written objections have been received to date, and staff are recommending approval of the bylaw as presented.
Thank you for that. We have done this kind of thing in the past as the community is changing, more folks are creating permanent homes. Any questions or comments from council on the application that Sean is supporting? Okay. Do the applicants or agent have any comments? I think you're hearing concurrent, so there's no need to pitch your case.
Nothing here.
I'm seeing none. Okay, great. Well, we'll thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Yeah, we can both at the end, right? Ask that every time. Okay, we'll go on to the next public meeting. Oh, Sean.
There was someone who registered to speak. I'm not sure if they signed in to the meeting or not.
They didn't. That person
Okay.
did not sign in. Yeah. Thank you.
Perfect. All right, thank you.
Okay, next up is Horde. And I think that Connor and Jenna Horde are signing in.
Hello, can you hear us?
We can hear you, but we can't see you.
How about now? There we go.
There you are. Hello.
Hello, how are you?
You look very cheery today. So the process of a public meeting is that the planner takes us through your application, and then I ask council if they have any questions or comments. And after that, if you feel you need to add anything after you've heard what anybody has to say, then I'll ask you for any thoughts if you have any. So Sean will take us through your application.
Yes, this is very similar to the previous application. So this property is located on Chelsea Lane and zoned rural residential and designated rural under the official plan. The property is approximately 1.52 acres in area with 44.2 meters of frontage on Chelsea Lane. Surrounding uses are generally rural residential and shoreline residential, and the lands are currently vacant. The proposed rezoning is to rezone from rural residential to rural residential exception 15 to permit the development of a single family dwelling on a lot without frontage on an improved public street. Notice of the rezoning was posted on the property, circulated to all prescribed agencies, to all property owners within 120 meters of the subject lands, and posted on the township's website. No written objections have been received, and staff are recommending approval approval of the proposed bylaw amendment.
Thank you. And similarly to the previous application, and as we've done in the past, it's not unusual for us to move in this direction. Any thoughts, questions, comments from council on the application? Nope. Okay, so we're hearing general concurrence. Did you folks think that you had anything else to say?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, great. Well, thank you for your time, for popping in to see us, and we will carry on with our business.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. Thanks for having us. That's fine. Go ahead.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Jansen, second by Councillor Shortreed, be it resolved that council adjourns its public meeting at 9:10 a.m. and the regular meeting resume.
All in favor? That's carried. Go ahead.
Moved by Councillor Barry, second by Deputy Mayor Jansen, be it resolved council receives report PL 9622 regarding the rezoning of lands located at part of Lot 4, Concession 4, Geographic Township of Stanhope, submitted by Sean O'Callaghan, dated August 11th, 2022, and that council pass a resolution in accordance with section 10002 of the Planning Act to allow this proposed zoning bylaw amendment to be tabled for consideration, and that council directs a bylaw be tabled for consideration during its regular meeting.
All in favor? That's carried.
Moved by Councillor Barry, second by Councillor Shortreed, be it resolved council receives report PL 9522 regarding zoning of lands located at part of Lot 26, Concession 4, Geographic Township of Stanhope, submitted by Sean O'Callaghan, dated August 11, 2022, and that council pass a resolution in accordance with section 10002 of the Planning Act to allow this proposed zoning bylaw amendment to be tabled for further consideration, and that council directs a bylaw be tabled for consideration during its regular meeting.
All in favor? It's carried. Thank you. Next up is delegations, and we have Chris Stevenson, Library CEO, and Sally Howson, Library Chair, coming in. Thank you, Sean. Always gone. Thanks, Sean.
Good morning.
Morning, Chris. Morning, Sally.
Hello, Mayor Moffat and Council, and congratulations to Angie Bird on your service milestone. That's quite remarkable. Thank you very much for having myself and the Library Board Chair, Sally Howson, today. We'd like to update you on what's been developing with the Haliburton County Public Library in the last year or so. Is it possible to have our slide deck posted on the screen?
Yes, that's coming now.
Thank you. Great, thank you so much. We can actually advance to the second slide if you would. Thank you. Great. So we chose some highlights to tell you about today. Managers and librarians from the Waterloo Library, the County of Huron, Aruplo, which is the administrators of rural and urban public libraries in Ontario, have all been sort of keeping tabs on the Dorset Depot Library Lockers project. So it's attracted attention in the library world for sure, because many libraries are looking for alternative ways to provide service in challenging situations. So we are hoping to talk about this at a conference in the future, probably a super conference in Toronto. In the meantime, library programs are continuing to build momentum, and we're really excited to see people back in our branches, but we're also taking the show on the road. And we're excited to start coming to communities that may not have had a library service brought to them previously. So we hope to try a new approach where we're maybe showing up in parks. And at some point, I may reach out to your staff to see about rental space in the Stanhope area as well. Because we do hope to reach kids, adults, and seniors for a variety of programs, which we've been rolling out with our new programming and outreach coordinator. And to help her, Hillary Montgomery, which she started a couple of months ago, we have partnerships formed, many formed over years of library service, but we're certainly looking for new partnerships. It just allows us to bring expertise into our libraries and make what's possible expanding at all times. And then a big shout out to Chad Ingram. I know he's been crucial in helping us spread the word with social media, which is our main advertising portal. And I know that this is what is responsible for driving some of the new interest as we, head potentially out of the pandemic. We're also really grateful to municipal staff. I've been working over the past few months with Lyle, Adam, Carl, and Scott. They've been our champions, also helping to keep books flowing in the system, because as you may know, we're heading towards having a floating collection. So books that get requested, which may be inside the Stanhope Library, can be sent to other areas. And we're at the moment pulling between 60 and 100 books and films from there every 4 to 6 weeks or so to satisfy the demand in the system. And then I would say overall that the number of patrons that have called about the branch reopening, Stanhope branch reopening, have dropped a little bit since work started on the outdoors. So people can see that the progress is happening, and we've been really pleased to get updates when I check in with Angie. And since then, we've been working with IT so that we have all our ducks in a row when the doors can open again, to ensure that technology is up to date in advance of the opening date. And in the meantime, Wi-Fi has continued to operate throughout this closure, as it does also in Dorset. And people have been telling us they're accessing the internet from the parking lot, and when I think they're at soccer matches and whatnot. May I have the next slide, please? Thank you. So a few things that we were working on in the winter, namely our new website and a rebrand or a refresh of our colors, the accessibility of what people can do online has been improved as well. Our library website has been built so that it's fully accessible to those with special needs when they're reading through it. The logo, as you'll see, is starting to appear in unique ways throughout the system. And what we hope is that people realize when they go to a branch that they're part of a cohesive library system across the county, which may not be known by everyone. We've also integrated into the new website some of the most modern technologies, such as BiblioCommons, and it's really the gold standard in libraries for catalog searching. So we're getting a lot of compliments on how easy it is to see a book that you like, choose it, and also put it on hold, whether it's an audiobook, an ebook, or a book that you'd like to have sent to your branch. This can all be done in a matter of a few clicks. And then I would love to say that we've had 140 years of collective experience say goodbye to us over the last little while, the last 18 months really, and that this has been an opportunity to find some new staff members. And so we've joined up with 4 new people. And we also have a new full-time programmer, as I mentioned, Hillary, and a part-time media person, which is part of the reason for our success in promotion and our programs. At this point, the next slide, please, and I'll stop talking for a moment to have some updates come from Sally, the board chair.
Thank you very much for taking time out of your schedule to listen to our presentation. As you can see from Chris's, a lot has been happening at the library that you may not be aware of because it's behind the scenes, and kudos to our staff for bringing the library forward and modernizing how we approach things. Certainly the logo and things are very important. And we are also working on a strategic plan, and we hope to have that wrapped up before the end of this board's term. And I would like to say that, as you know, our board will end as it stands now in mid-November, and County Council will reappoint a new board for 4 years. And there will be a public posting for the 4 public members. If you know someone who might be interested in being on the library board, I would encourage you to talk to them. The posting will be sometime in December, and we'll certainly get the word out on that. There are 4 public members as well as 4 members from County Council who sit on the library board. It's a 4-year term, as you're probably aware. It's a very interesting board to be on. The library services all sectors of the county. And as I said, we've really moved forward, and there's been so many positive changes, and that's why we felt it was important to bring these to you so that you're aware of these changes, because a lot of them are kind of behind the scenes and they're not that obvious. And again, thank you for allowing us to have some of your time, because I know you're really busy, and I'll pass it back to Chris.
Thank you, Sally. And if I could just have the last slide to wrap up. I did send also to the Mayor and Council a copy of the annual report 2022. And this is a snapshot mid-year of what we're currently focused on. It includes some statistics and facts about our our impact since last summer. And the report also incorporates some of the new colors and fonts that we've developed. It's designed to help patrons and residents learn more about what we do, the scope and scale of Haliburton County Public Library. I hope that you've had a chance to review it. And if not, I can tell you that we start with the word modernization for a very good reason. We're digging into all areas of the library system and re-envisioning how it might work best for the changes that are happening throughout the county, especially population increases. And addressing accessibility in library facilities and online is really important to us, and supporting internet improvements and making the switch to online streaming services, which also supports people who may be able to work from home or at the cottage, or finding new ways to interact with the library. At this point, I can call up my last slide, please, and just say that if there's any questions or comments, we certainly would love to take those back to our board and staff.
And I just have one more comment before we get to the questions. We had a board meeting yesterday, and the board approved the purchase of a van for the library. And this will help in the outreach programs to communities like Dorset, even as far as all the different communities we have. So that is going to be on the road as soon as we can get it. And this will certainly help our outreach programs to those smaller communities. And that's a really important step for the library. Thank you. Now, if there are any questions, we'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you. Thank you both. I have some comments, but just questions or comments from, I was going to go here first because you and I are both on the board. So I'm going to go to the other two members of council if you have any questions or anything for these folks. Okay.
Just a comment or a suggestion. The last time the board was looking for new members for the new term, there was a bit of a notice posted early on, and anyone who had an interest in being on the board was invited to the last meeting of the board, so they could get an opportunity to see how things worked and, sort of the general types of discussions that we had. And I found that it was quite successful. I think it was an opportunity for people to see. I think actually, Sally, you might have attended that meeting, when you first showed interest in being on the board. And it's just something that just when you were talking came to mind, that it's something that you might want to consider doing again.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, and then suddenly Sally was the chair.
Yeah.
Thank you for that suggestion. In fact, we do get calls periodically where people come and tell us, they're really pleased about the service they received in the library, but then they say, what's the deal for signing up to be a board member? And it's an opportunity to kind of do that education piece about that. So I think bringing people in to see how we work and how what we do is a great idea.
I wanted a couple of comments that the construction at the Stanhope Branch, you want to acknowledge publicly. It has been acknowledged through a number of emails that it's been incredibly frustrating. And it's a holdover from supply chain problems through the pandemic. And, we got this piece, we got the thing, but didn't get the piece that went with it. And then the other part didn't fit. It's just been a bit of a dog's breakfast. So it's nice to see that it's coming along. I wanted to thank you, Chris, for the energy and positivity that you've brought as the CEO. The library has always been successful. The library system has always been successful. And I don't think I've ever seen as successful and progressive as it is now. And so thank you for the work you've put into that. And in terms of your outreach, when I was a kid at the cottage here, just across the lake, I well remember a full-size bookmobile that used to go into what was the township office down there. just at the bridge. And that was really exciting. Like it was they'd put down the step and you'd walk up the steps into this straight truck lined with books. So I know that there probably aren't resources or support, she said, as a board member, scratch. But the fact that there's a van coming or vehicle coming in, opportunities for outreach, I think that's really worth discussing because it was of such value to me and the other neighborhood kids when we were children here as cottagers. So congratulations on looking for some outreach opportunities. That's terrific. It's my little heritage story for today.
Okay, well, thank you for that. And we are hoping to get to places that we've never been, like Oxtongue. And there's so many other little communities within the county, and the van will open the door for that, no pun intended. And it's a whole new era now, I feel. We really are moving forward.
Thank you. Okay, I think with that, we will have a resolution to receive your presentation with thanks.
Moved by Councillor Shortreed, second by Deputy Mayor Danielson. Be it resolved, Council receives for information a presentation from Chris Stevenson, Library CAO, Chief Librarian, and Sally Howson, Board Chair for the Haliburton County Public Library regarding the 2022 annual report.
All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Thank you both for being here today.
Thank
so
you
much.
for having us.
Our second delegation for the day is Jason Farrigan from J.L. Richards. And he is on the phone. Oh, because he can't get visual. Okay, well, we can manage that. Hello, Jason, are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you okay. We can.
Oh,
Sorry that Ms.
awesome.
Rupp couldn't join you today, but we'll I'm sure you're more than capable of carrying the presentation.
Well, Mayor Moffett and members of council, I really appreciate you guys taking the time to have me in this morning to give you a very brief update on the work that we've been doing on your behalf and on the behalf of other residents within Haliburton County on the short-term rental accommodation review. We did provide staff with a presentation which was intended to serve both as an update and a guide for our conversation today. But just if it pleases council, just given the technical challenges that I'm having this morning on my end, and I do appreciate your patience with me as well, I think what I will do, again, if it pleases council, is the presentation is there. It describes the mandate that we've received from council. It describes, I think, the work process that we've been following, the highlights of some of the research that we've been doing, both in terms of scientific literature review and other municipal precedents, as well as a very successful community survey that we had initiated earlier in the late spring or the early summer that had received well over 1,500 responses around sort of the issue of short-term rental accommodations and trying to get folks' perspectives on kind of what works and what doesn't work when it comes to that. So that presentation is there. I'm pleased to take questions on that. And I think by way of further update to council, we had a wonderful meeting with County Council yesterday, both during the morning and the afternoon on this matter. We had an opportunity to go through, if I count them all up correctly, we went through 15 different aspects of the short-term rental framework for Haliburton County and got some wonderful feedback from council on things like the service level that they were hoping to achieve, the types of short-term rental accommodations that would be included within the framework, the fee structure that would be associated with that. We talked about things like density, occupancy, parking, landscaping and amenity areas, setbacks. We talked about accessory dwelling units, enforcement, the municipal accommodation tax, zoning, appeals, complete application requirements, and importantly, the information base that we provide both to residents and potential users of short-term rental accommodations within the county that will provide the right level of information and support to ensure that this aspect of both the economy and the community can be successful over time. So with that, Madam Mayor, I think that's kind of late breaking news. I'm happy to kind of stop here. The intent of checking in was really to hear council's feedback on this issue. So I'm happy to stop and to take any questions, and happy to receive feedback from council on this important matter as it relates to your community specifically. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that. And we did indeed have quite a good conversation at County Council yesterday, and I know Councillor Barry tuned into that. So I would look to, I don't think Liz and I have any questions because we were there for that epic discussion yesterday, epic day yesterday at the county table. I would look to Councillors Barry and Shortreed for any questions or clarifications on the process to date. And I would be interested too to know just things you've heard from folks in the community. I know that I've been keeping an email file on concerns and positives too. Some sort of hero stories as well about short-term rentals, and sort of the time is nigh to manage. They are a benefit to the community. There's no question. I think everyone agrees on that. The issue is just management for everyone's individual and group prosperity. Councillor Barry?
Yes, I was grateful to be able to log in. That's one of the great things that have come out of COVID, is all of the digital technology availability. I actually reviewed, we have a file of collected emails, so I reviewed that as well. And I think collectively what I've heard is basically having all the rules in place are only good if we're able to enforce them. And that goes well beyond short-term rentals. And I think as our building department and community grows, that's becoming more evident. One of the things I've heard is making sure there's, you have a short-term rental on one side of your place and you have rowdy neighbors on the other, that both situations are able to be taken care of. So that there's sort of an equity across the board. Another thought that or concern that I've heard is just being able to have public education in regards to our existing bylaws. It's all fine and good to have a process in place for the short-term rentals, but if people don't know about noise bylaws, landfill rules and regulations, hours of operations, I think it was Mayor Roberts that mentioned a sort of a childhood story of the log in the cottage and how they used to track people that were coming up to their cottage and sort of little stories about that. I thought maybe there's a way that we can offer some sort of education on the rules and regulations of the township that go for everyone in regards to dogs barking, fireworks. I think environmental concern is top of mind for everyone. And I was very confident to hear all the discussion regarding that yesterday.
I think a number of the things that you speak about would be covered in I don't know what it's called, Jason, a good neighbor policy or an agreement, a good neighbor agreement, and to the provision of that information. So folks aren't going into a rental with no information of how to be in that community, in that area. Mm-hmm. And I can't see if you are looking to say anything, Jason. So if you want to say something, you need to just start talking.
Just start piping in. No, I was just going to concur with what you're saying, Mayor Moffat, around the Good Neighbor Guide. And it's an interesting suggestion, actually, because having a physical copy of the Good Neighbor Guide in a short-term rental is a really interesting possibility. So how could we achieve that service level? That's a very interesting suggestion, which I appreciate.
Yeah, good. And Councillor Shortreed, what do you hear from the middle of the world there?
The middle of the world. Actually, the same thing as Councillor Barry. People just don't know the rules. They don't know that you can get a guest pass for garbage, because garbage is an issue. People do dump their garbage in the parkette because the dump's closed. So a good neighbor policy and having the rules known by both the owners and the renters will be a huge part in making everybody happy.
Yeah, and just a little anecdote about keeping people informed. Two of them, I guess. So Tony and I years ago had a cottage that was rented minimally through the summer, and we had, even before it was a big deal, we didn't have 911, so you were on Cousin Mary's Road, like you were the third place down on the left with the. But we had all the rules, and there was I don't think I'm telling tales out of school, but a fire call in the last 10 days where it was an alarm company, and it was, the renters set the alarm off by accident, and no one had given them the code to press into the alarm panel. So it's those so Algonquin Highlands sent 2 fire trucks and 7 firefighters. What did that cost us? So that's something that is completely avoidable. So if we can do all of those things, teach people how to be good landlords and how to be good tenants, then there will be a way to the races. Liz, Deputy Mayor Danielson.
I think one of the things that I have heard a lot is the need for better enforcement, as Councillor Barry said. And that was something that was acknowledged during our meeting yesterday, that, and I hate to make every bylaw officer in the county shudder, but that, you know, that we're going to be looking at 7 days a week, 24/7 in some cases, in order to be able to try and get things in line and get things to sort of at a calmer state. And that's the case with so many issues that we have to deal with these days. It's unfortunate, but it's a reality.
Well, we have that now with fireworks and you know, bonfires, and I mean, we're already experiencing that. So hopefully this can all wrap up together. Is there any other questions? Are there any questions for Mr. Farrigan at this moment? And Jason, do you have anything else you wanted to say before we wrap up? I think our resolution is to receive. Yeah. So Jason, anything before we wrap up?
No, except to express some gratitude again for having me in this morning. It looks like a lovely sunny day in Algonquin Highlands this morning, and I wish I could be there in person, and thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. We'll see you again soon.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Danielson, second by Councillor Barry. Be it resolved, Council receives a presentation from Jason Farrigan from JL Richards and Associates Limited for information regarding an update on short-term rental accommodations in the county of Haliburton.
All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Building and bylaw enforcement business is next, and we'll bring Mr. Moore in. Good morning, Greg.
Good morning, Mayor and Council.
What say ye on your July reports? Things are full steam ahead.
Full steam ahead. It's still very busy. The permit issuance, the number is down a little bit. We do have a lot of permit applications in-house awaiting some documents here and there to finalize them. So we're still very busy in this department. A few more bylaw issues, which a lot of them are being resolved thanks to our bylaw staff. Yeah, so this month, basically, we only had about 26,000 in fees and 3.8 million in construction value. Something of note, I did receive my CBCO designation last month, so that was pretty exciting for myself.
Congratulations.
Well, thank you. And yeah, other than that, it's just another month.
Yeah, just another month. The blur of summer.
Yeah.
Any questions for Mr. Moore on the world of building and bylaw? No. Go ahead.
If I may, I'm seeing more and more properties that would come under the issue of property standards, and I'm just kind of wondering. I know that that's something that's on your desk and at a really busy time. I'm just kind of wondering about the you know, when we might see the first iteration of a new property standards bylaw.
It's in the works, is it not?
Through you, Mayor, yes, it is in the works. We've just finalized the parking bylaw through the AG. We've got the ticket books ordered, so that one is finally now basically wrapped up. So we can put our attention more towards the property standards bylaw now.
Terrific. And I guess, are you looking for a timeline, I suppose?
Well, I guess just to know that that's kind of, you know, coming closer to us having a look at it. That's good to hear.
Excellent. Any other questions for Mr. Moore? Councillor Barry.
Sort of going off on what Councillor Deputy Mayor Danielson, such a mouthful, said, as I did receive a call this week in regards to just an inquiry on why people are when people are giving a complaint, the process in regards to why they have to attach a name to it. And I just wondered if you could speak to that. It's not the first time I've been asked that, but I just thought.
I've been asked that before too, and we've had a conversation around a lake meeting a number of years ago around that. But Greg, go ahead. Comparison to policing.
Yes. Excuse me, through you, Mayor. Yes. The reasoning for the most part is to stop any frivolous anonymous complaints that would just boggle up the system. The person is anonymous. So there's no real reason not to assign your name. If you're serious about an issue, a complaint, you should be able to come forward with your name and contact information. The only time it may come into play is if it goes to a court situation where you would be called out. But yeah, I think for the most part, it is in place to so we don't get inundated with a whole bunch of just frivolous little complaints to, like I said, to boggle up the bylaw department. So I don't know if there's any legal, I'll check with our bylaw staff to see if there's a legal reason to have the name attached. I know we have taken anonymous complaints in the past, checked them out and have dealt with them, but it's not preferred. We do like to have a name associated to contact.
Were you going to say something there?
I was, and Greg touched on it, is the main reason is for if there's a court action.
Which doesn't happen, is very rare. And I think it is important that the public know that when they make a complaint, the staff don't go to the problem person or property and say, so-and-so complained. It's just, there's been a complaint, but until or unless that person is personally needed for a court action, which is highly unlikely, their name is never mentioned. So complaints are actually anonymous, but they can't be anonymous, if that makes sense. Yeah.
That's sort of what I explained, but the comprehension was on why do they have to give their name if it's anonymous, and I said it was legal. So I think we're all on the same page.
Yep. Anything else you'd like to share with us today, Mr. Moore, about your report?
I have nothing further. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for your time. We'll have a
Thank
resolution.
you.
Moved by Counselor Barry, second by Counselor Shortreed. Be it resolved, Council receives report BLDG 922 submitted by Greg Moore and dated August 11th, 2022 for information.
All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Thank you, Greg.
Thank you. Enjoy your day.
You too. Parks, Rec and Trails business is next. We'll bring in Mr. Card. Good morning, Chris.
Good morning, Mayor and Council.
A couple of things for you. Just the verbal report, we'll see it in the bylaws, but just the payment agreement for the Stewardship Rangers.
Yeah, so we've been very fortunate again to receive confirmation of funding for our Stewardship Youth Ranger program in the amount of $37,000. This will cover wages and expenses for our 4 Stewardship Youth Rangers as well as team lead. So this is to enter into the transfer payment agreement and authorize signature of that. I've also included the program documents and manuals just to essentially be able to show council and the public what's all involved in the program, which is so much more than having a crew to help us out with maintaining our trails. It is a large part of that, but there's a number of things we put in place for requirements for training, which is a 10% requirement throughout the year to help any youth who's interested in a career in the natural resources to gain skills within that field. Also partnering with local organizations in order to provide some training opportunities, which we refer to as work and learn days. So I've added that just to highlight some of those things because it's a wonderful program. We're happy to receive it again this year. We already had the program underway before we received funding approval. So now we're kind of working to get all of the pieces in place for the program. But this is here for council to review and sign off on today.
Yeah, thank you. The value of this program, I know there's been some challenges on and off with getting, I want to say kids, because I think you have to be 17. But I'm glad it's still being funded and that we can proudly provide it. I had a conversation with somebody a couple of days ago who was recently given a promotion inside the Ministry of Natural Resources and works over here at the airport. And he said he wouldn't be where he is if it weren't for this Rangers program. And we were talking about it, and he was, giving it a glowing recommendation and sort of fingers crossed for its continuation in the future. So it's a good opportunity for young folks to get out there. Any questions for Chris on this? And we'll see the bylaw at the end. All right, thank you for that. Resolution?
Moved by Councillor Shortreed, second by Deputy Mayor Danielson. Be it resolved, Council approves the Ontario Transfer Payment Agreement and directs a bylaw be brought forward authorizing the mayor and clerk to execute the said agreement.
All in favor? It's carried. Thank you. Monthly activities. What's top of your mind there, sir?
Yeah, so the past month for me has been very much beyond it being, the peak of busy season as far as trails attendance goes, has been very much about requests for quotations, both for some fencing replacement at the Stanhope multipurpose court, which we've been fortunate to get a successful bid and going ahead with that work. So that will close the court for 1 or 2 days in September, which will be communicated to all of the court users there. Also the purchase of a new zero-turn lawnmower, which is going to replace one of our older mowers as indicated in our asset management plan, but also create some efficiencies as far as grass cutting goes because it's a wider deck and a little bit of a faster machine. Second is been working quite a bit on docks and landings related projects, and specifically the Lower Fletcher Lake Landing, where we've come to the first draft design for the renewal project there that I've been able to review. I've sent that back with some things that I'd like tweaked and some questions associated with that. So we hope to finalize that in the coming weeks and then start moving towards a tender process associated with that. We did complete the land survey there and have found that landing and all of the associated infrastructure is on Township shoreline road allowance. So there won't be a land use permit required for the land portion of that, but we will have to determine what's required for the docking in that regard. Beyond that, just a lot going on from top to bottom in all aspects of the department.
Thank you. I'm curious to know just a wee bit more. I think I'm familiar, but you're going to clarify or confirm about the Spot satellite tracking device and how's that working so far?
Yeah, so this year we wanted to test out, it's a satellite communication device, which allows us to see essentially where staff are in the field. Right now we have a process in place where we have check-ins from field staff when they're in remote areas using handheld radios. It works well, but it does have its challenges. This technology is something that we wanted to try out this year to see whether or not it's a good fit to implement in a more broad capacity for all of our teams. So we've bought one of them this year. They have ongoing costs associated with them. We're testing it out with our team, and essentially it allows risk management in the event of an emergency, where if we were to lose contact with a crew who's in the field, or if there were an injury and let's say at the same time that happened there were a power outage or something of that nature, this device has an SOS system built into it, which will allow the staff to hit that button, and then it gets in touch with emergency services personnel and search and rescue personnel who would be able to get two-way communications with them. So far, we're just testing out the tracking and the check-in portions of it. Like all technology, it takes a little bit of time for everybody to get used to, and it also has its challenges. So we're going to work through the summer and determine how we feel that might work best, and whether or not it's something we want to implement more broadly for next year once I get staff input on it at the end of the season.
Yeah, that's terrific. Thank you. On a lighter side, I have a satellite tracking device on my dog, and I find that quite helpful. So I know where he is at all times. Any questions from council on Chris's monthly report? Councillor Shortreed.
Hi, Chris. I just want to know if there's any updates on the Dorset Rec Center.
I would defer this to Angie if I may.
You may, and she's going to push her button now.
Yes, that's not Chris, and that's the operations manager, which we don't have. So council will defer to a closed session decision that we made previously. In short, there's nothing happening at the moment, but there will be.
Mystery continues. Yeah, we'll be dealing with something a little later today. Yeah. Okay, anything else for Chris with the Parks, Rec, and Trails? Okay, we'll have a resolution then.
Moved by Councillor Shortreed, second by Councillor Barry. Be it resolved, council receives report PRT 2122 regarding monthly activity report for July submitted by Chris Card and dated August 11th, 2022.
All in favor? Carried. And the Oxtongue Lake Community Center minutes are from June, so I'm sure they don't need much discussion. Is there anybody that has to say something about that? Then we will have a resolution.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Danielson, second by Councillor Shortreed. Be it resolved, council receives for information the June 21st, 2022 Oxtongue Lake Community Center Committee meeting minutes.
All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Number 11, Public Works Business. We'll bring in Mr. Thorne, I think. Good morning, Adam.
Good morning.
First up for you is the GPS AVL solution. So tell us about this, which we approved in the budget.
Yeah, so you may recall we did have a great discussion on this back at budget time. And this is just the agreement for that. It is currently running in other municipalities, so we were just waiting for their contract to come to renewal before we jumped on board with them, and that has come. Yes, this is the agreement. I'm really excited for this. This will help alleviate a lot of truck time for the staff to fill out the paperwork, the pen and paper of when staff members are on the road and how much material is being put down and whether they're plowing or they're sanding. This will help alleviate a lot of that in the truck work. Will also help track a lot of information as we move forward for the amount of material we use annually, daily, per specific road. It will also help us in any kind of litigation case too, where we can show a digital footprint of our trucks when they were on the road and when they were not. If there was a complaint that sand was not put down, as an example. Also, this goes a little bit further too with our grading operations in the summertime. This will allow us to document through digital form when we were on a road for grading operations. It will also help us track maintenance as we move forward digitally. So it's pretty exciting. There's a lot of facets to it that will be a benefit to the township. And I really appreciate that the great deal of discussion we had at budget time to allow this to move forward.
Yeah, and I think to me, the most important thing to note for the public is the plow tracking, Track My Plow, because the MTO has that, so you can see where the plows are on the highways. But people are more and more with weather being the way it is. Any snowy day on Facebook, there's people saying, "What's the road like? Where are the plows between here and there, or where I need to go?" So if that public facing portal will be part of that suite, then that's going to be a tremendous asset for public consumption as well.
Right. And that will or can be an option. That's not the plan right out the gate once this is up and running. But it does have the capability should council choose to have that as an option down the road.
Is that a to be paid for add-on?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so council may want to have a look at that going forward, in budgets, given that, people do really want to know where their plows are. And that is, again, we don't govern by social media, but we do live in a world of social media. And that's especially in poor weather, winter season. That's one of the primary questions, or where is the plow? And, when can I get out of my driveway? So you might want to consider that going forward. I won't be here at the next budget, but hopefully all of you folks will be. Any questions of Adam on this project? No, we'll have a resolution, please.
Moved by Councillor Barry, second by Deputy Mayor Dennison. Be it resolved, council approves the agreement for the supply and installation of AVL GPS equipment and directs a bylaw be brought forward authorizing the mayor and clerk to execute the said agreement.
All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Monthly activities is next. And as with the others, it's the high time of the year. Anything you'd like to highlight for us?
No, nothing that's jumping out at me. It's definitely a busy time of year for all of us here at the township. So it's just par for the course, working through projects. We were in the middle of some road projects, some road resurfacing. And I guess one thing to point out is the joint training with the county that our staff went and attended for Book 7 training. So it's always great to get out and train with other staff or with other people in the same field as us within the municipality and county. So that was a great opportunity, great team effort. Other than that, it's business as usual.
Thank you. Any questions of Adam on his report? Okay, go ahead.
Moved by Councillor Barry, second by Councillor Short-Reed. Be it resolved, council receives report PW 2922 submitted by Adam Thorne and dated August 11th, 2022 for information.
All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Vehicle tender approval.
Yes. So as we've seen over the past couple of years, it has been a very challenging process to tender out a vehicle and get it within the same year as what we used to do pre-COVID. Like the report says, usually we would tender them at the beginning of the year and receive the vehicle towards the end of the year. But progressively, they've been harder to get. Tandem trucks right now are close to 2 years before we can get a truck. So what I would like to do is put forward the tender to purchase 2 tandem trucks and to purchase 2 pickups that will fall within their lifespan here for replacement. So if we can get them tendered this year, we should be able to get them by the year we actually need them to be replaced. So no monies would be spent right now. We wouldn't be spending any monies until the trucks are in our possession, which would be like I said, the end of life cycle year. So there shouldn't be any, there wouldn't be any budgetary restraints as far as paying for something up front. So the idea is just to get ahead of this so that we can get a vehicle when we actually need it and not wait for it.
Great, thank you. Questions, thoughts from council? Liz looked like she was going to say something.
Yeah, it's just, it's unfathomable that I don't think we ever thought that we'd find ourselves in a position of having to, put in a tender for vehicles that we're not going to get for 2 years. And I don't really have an issue with it. It's just kind of the timing is, committing future councils at this date and time. I'm a little uncomfortable with, but we're well within our capability to do so. So I think we need to go ahead to make sure that we've got the equipment that we need in the time frame that we need it.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I see this as a sort of stopgap measure. By the time these vehicles are needed, the equipment provision scenario out there could be different. But this is just, as Adam has said, getting ahead of the line as a safeguard. If it changes in the future, then council of that time could do something different. Because there wouldn't necessarily be by the time the tender comes, you see what the situation is at the time.
And just to add to that too, and meaning council is aware, we're already behind on our asset management plan. And if we don't try and do something like this, it just puts us further and further behind. So
Yeah, I mean, I think it's strategic thinking. And the best way to go at the time, just to stay ahead of it. And it's almost like a place marker and get your foot in the door and see what happens at the other end of it. So I'm hearing concurrence for that. Anything else from council? Resolution, please.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Danson, second by Councillor Barry. Be it resolved, council receives report PW 3022 regarding vehicle tender approval submitted by Adam Thorne dated August 11th, 2022, and council hereby concurs with the recommendation made in the said report to authorize staff to prepare 2 tender documents and submit bids in 2022 for the replacement of 2 tandem trucks and 2 pickup trucks. And that council directs that a report be brought forward at a future meeting outlining the estimates received and recommendation for the purchase of 2 tandem trucks with plowing, sanding equipment, and 2 pickup trucks.
All in favor? That's carried. Next up is the proposal for the review of a single tier waste management system. And I think, is Melissa coming in for that?
Yes.
We'll wait for her to come in then.
Good
morning,
Mayor
Melissa.
and Council.
Good morning. This is quite a big bite. This is coming out of the service delivery review. And so take it away for us.
So this is a bit of a what if sort of investigation, and just to look at what a potential model for single tier waste management in the county could look like. So this is just to sort of get a picture painted of what we could be looking at, not making any decisions or anything like that at this point, just to collect information.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's it's nice to see another concrete outcome from the service delivery review. There's been a lot of conversation, and one of the things that people have called for years is a consolidation of waste services across the county. So yeah, nice to see it coming forward, and we'll see what happens. Thoughts from members of council on this project? Deputy Mayor Liz.
I'm really pleased to see the direction that's been taken to streamline, how operations, and to try and put into place the same operator for the landfills. This is, in my mind, this is one aspect of the service delivery review that it's huge, because we have such different types of facilities and operations. But I'm really looking forward to hearing what the consultant comes up with as far as recommendations and ideas about how we might proceed.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting to see the outcome. Anything else from council? Resolution, please.
By Councillor Short, second by Deputy Mayor Danson. Be it resolved, council receives report PW 3122 regarding a request for proposals for review of a single tier waste management service delivery model for the county of Haliburton, submitted by Melissa Murray, dated August 11th, 2022, for information.
All in favor? That's carried. Right, another big bite is the operations center RFP. Now we know that we seem to be, and we're not the only ones, everybody seems to be behind the 8 ball in RFPs and tenders, and the world is a crazy place in terms of supply and demand. So Melissa, take us through this and what your proposed resolution might be.
Thank you, Mayor. So, I feel like a bit of a broken record saying that this project was put out for an RFP, and all our bids came in over budget and fairly substantially over budget. That definitely sort of seems to be the way things are these days. When we had originally proposed this project back in 2019, we had no idea of what the world would, what direction it was going. So, even our estimates were a little, less than where we're at. But we're looking for approval from council to move forward with negotiations with our lowest bidder to try and see what we could do to get a little closer where we'd like to see those numbers.
And you're proposing then that you have those conversations, and then we would meet again probably next week, just quickly to see if there's if you've been successful in bringing us a different number. That's sort of the plan. That's your request. Now, Deputy Mayor Danielson will be away at AMO until Wednesday. So we could work on that. But looking for thoughts from council to sort of keep this thing moving.
I believe Councillor Dai will be out of country as well, and I am teaching at the college next week, so.
Oh,
Monday to
be a
Friday.
special meeting of 3 then.
2. Oh, okay, yes, if you did
It's
that.
1, 2, 3.
If you're back.
Yeah. Yeah, so all we can do is leave it with staff to see if discussions can bring the price, the cost down within the preferred estimates and go from there. There is a 48-hour notice requirement for meetings, so go ahead.
I really appreciate any and all efforts made to try and bring the costs down more in line with the estimates that we had for the project. I'm just, hoping or concerned about having to make change to the point where it makes the project or the site less viable. I know that there's certain goals that we want to achieve in doing this work, and I'm just hoping that we're going to be able to go forward to the greatest extent possible as planned, even if it means that we, have to look at other alternatives.
Well, I don't think the negotiations are to pick away at pieces of the project. It's to talk to the lowest bidder to reduce the prices for the entire project. We have done that before a number of times over the last few years and have had some success there, and it's not uncommon to, try a little negotiation. But yeah, the intent, if I understand correctly, is not to take away any of the pieces of the project, just to get the costs reduced. Yeah, because it's, it took 8 years to get the expansion at Maple Lake, and I think that goes back to 2011. So there's this has been a very, very long, slow moving project toward this outcome. So staff are fine with that. And if there's a meeting next week, Councillor Barry, you would be unable to attend, but there would be enough notice you're not out of the country or doing anything away. Okay. I have a few things on here and there that are personal in nature and could probably be shuffled around if we needed to. That I think now is the time to acknowledge that the Maple Lake landfill situation is really frustrating to an awful lot of people, and we hear a lot about that. I've explained to a number of people that the consolidation of waste services into Maple Lake has been a long-term plan, and that the plan was to make the Maple Lake site, better and more efficient, and that's fully acknowledged that right now it is neither. And that is due in part to a combination of COVID and very many delays, and the decision of our operations manager to decide to go back to school. So, and that position still remains vacant, and we'll be having some, conversations around what to do around that. And so we need to keep this project moving. When I spoke to Adam a number of months ago was, tender is going to go out and hopefully it'll start in August. Well, it's August. The intended finish time is, I think, Adam, is supposed to be in the spring of next year. And that's why I'd like to, if we can, have a special meeting as soon as possible to keep it moving, to help reduce the public angst, which we fully acknowledge exists, and it's frustrating for everybody. Adam, are you going to chime in there?
Yeah, I just wanted to add to it, just as a reminder that you may recall, we did do a lot of reports in the last couple of years regarding this operations center. And the main driving factor was the efficiency between all of our sites within Algonquin Highlands and the management of them. But not only that, but the amount of money that would have to be put forward strictly at Maple landfill itself to move around on the mound where waste capacity is accessible. And the staff at the time, and still strongly believe that, trying to move around on top of a mound and keep redesigning and keep making room. And we recognized back in when we first got started in this, the challenges that we would face as our community grows that working on the mound and redesigning the mound multiple times over the course of its life is not cost efficiency or efficient. Like it's throwing money out for that, right? So this operations center was a I don't know how to say it. I guess it was the big plan was to spend the money in the right places so that we had future growth without having to continually redesign the mound. And I know that we've had some staff changes, myself included, but I also just want to throw out there the amount of work that our team has put together in this to try and make this happen as efficiently as possible has been amazing. Between help with from the CAO and from Melissa and even from Cambium, and the support from everyone has been great on this. So just wanted to throw that all out there.
Yeah, I think that's worth recognizing. And I have had a number of conversations with folks who are understandably frustrated and angry. And blame council for what they feel is making poor decisions. But this has been in play since 2011, and I have said to a number of people that in the absence of an operations manager, that the project has continued to move ahead extremely slowly on the backs of 3 people who already have full-time jobs. So we have Adam and Melissa and Angie, who have been working together, as Adam just said, to incrementally keep this moving forward. And I do think acknowledgement needs to be given for that, because there are no staff members at Algonquin Highlands that are sitting around playing cards looking for something to do. So I would echo Adam's thanks to you guys for doing that, because it's not easy when you have a job description in your own job that is very busy and that you're just keeping something moving off the corner of your desk on the fly. It's difficult. So we've gotten this far. That's why it's important, I think, to let the negotiation occur to see if you can get those costs down and then quickly meet to approve that. Now the question is, if those negotiations are unsuccessful, what happens then? That'll to you, I think, or not sure who.
The council would have to make that decision whether or not we would want to move forward at a cost that's over budget or retender. There's a couple of options that council could consider, but I'm hopeful that there will be some success there.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll leave it at that. You guys do your best, and we'll plan to get together. We'll sort out a date for next week and go from there. Do we have to set that now?
The resolution does have a spot for a potential date. I mean, council can eliminate that if they wish, but it would be Thursday or Friday is what I'm
Thursday,
hearing.
I think.
Sorry,
Madam Clerk.
Friday's nomination day, so that would not be a good day for
You'll be
me.
very busy.
Right.
Okay, well then Thursday.
And Thursday morning is booked for me.
Okay,
Thursday afternoon would work.
Thursday afternoon.
Oh,
Yeah, I think Thursday afternoon would work.
Like 2?
Yep,
Just It is, yeah. We are all actively adding that to our calendars just now. And that allows the notice to go out as well. Okay, so everybody okay with that? All right, well, thank you for that. Thanks for your work. It is disappointing and continually frustrating that, we're finding in the last, during and since and during the pandemic that prices that are determined to be for projects end up being way out of whack, and it's not bad. It's not poor planning on our part. It's just the changes out there in the world and for supply and demand. So, all right, we will carry on from there. Is there anything else that we need to discuss about this particular issue? No. Well, we'll have a resolution then.
moved by Councillor Shortley, second by Deputy Mayor Jansen. Be it resolved that council receives report PW 3222 regarding Maple Lake Waste Disposal Site Operations Center Construction, RFP results submitted by Melissa Murray and dated August 11th, 2022. And council concurs with the recommendation made in the said report and directs staff to enter into negotiations with lowest bidder and return to council with the results of such negotiations at a special meeting to be held on Thursday, August 18th, 2022.
All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Thank you both for your work on all these topics.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Fire service business is next. The chief is not here. He's enjoying some holidays. His report is there. I don't know if council has any questions. I would just like to note, we will send a letter out to Dan Flynn, who is the district chief of 28 years that he served with the fire service. And yeah, circumstances change. He's got the door open to possibly come back, if the circumstances change. But I do want to acknowledge his 28 years. That's a long time. And certainly would congratulate Mark Dimfel on being promoted to Station 70 district chief, and thank Mark Pankhurst for stepping up to be the acting chief in Dan's current absence. So a couple of milestones there. Any questions on the fire report? Resolution, please.
By Councillor Barry, second by Councillor Short. Be it resolved, council receives report FD 1922 regarding monthly activities submitted by Michael French and dated August 11th, 2022, and council accepts with regret the retirement of Dan Flynn, District Chief, Station 60, and the council hereby appoints Mark Dimfel, District Chief, Station 70, and the council hereby appoints Mark Pankhurst as acting District Chief for Station 60.
All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Where am I? Finance business. The account summary is next. I don't believe we need to bring in Madam Money. She's not here anyway. So any questions from anybody on the account summary report that's before us today? Resolution, please.
By Deputy Mayor Danielson, second by Councillor Short. Be it resolved, council has reviewed the expenditures incurred as set out in the account summary report TT 2122 in the total amount of $886,463.75 and hereby approves payment of same.
All in favor? That's carried. One piece of administration business, some July minutes from the Stanhope Museum. I don't know if anybody has any questions on that. Liz and I were both there as council appointees. Resolution, please.
Moved by Councillor Barry, second by Deputy Mayor Danielson. Be it resolved that council receives for information July 18th, 2022 draft Stanhope Museum Committee meeting minutes.
All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Planning business is next, and there's a number of items, one of which I think will generate a little bit of conversation. It's 10:20. Would council like to take 15 and just stretch your legs and get a fresh coffee? We will see you in 15 minutes. Welcome back, Sean.
Thank you.
First up for you is a lot addition, and we should just note that the first two are connected, I believe. So take us away for Palmer.
Yes, so this is a proposed lot addition for properties located on Quagma Lake. So this application is to sever approximately 1.32 acres to add to an adjacent parcel to the south. Staff are generally supportive of the application with conditions listed at the end of the report. One thing I would note is that the retained lands are zoned shoreline residential 2 with an exception, placing that property under site plan control. So staff would recommend a condition be included to amend that site plan to reflect the new property boundaries should the severance go through. And further, that the severed parcel, when it merged with the benefiting lands, they be rezoned from the shoreline residential 2 exception zone to just shoreline residential 2, where no site plan control would be required on that benefiting parcel.
Okay, and what's the reason for no site plan control on the second one?
I believe the original intent of the site plan control for the retained lands was it was a resort property that is now gone to a residential use. So it's been on there historically. Generally, we don't require site plan control for residential development on a developed lot, which this benefiting parcel is.
I remember now. Yes, thank you for that. Questions from council on this, Deputy Mayor Danielson?
Just a comment that looking at the first application, I thought, well, this is strange, and it didn't connect until you look at the two applications together, and it makes sense.
Well, it's nice, when there's a land issue and neighbors can, work something out that's to their, to their best interest. Anything else from council? No, go ahead.
Moved by Councillor Short, seconded by Deputy Mayor Danielson. Be resolved, council receives report PL 8522 prepared by Sean O'Callahan and dated August 11th, 2022 regarding proposed severance of lands located on part of Lot 19, Concession 11, Geographic Township of Sherburne, Palmer, Coagama Lake, submitted by Alan Fletcher on behalf of Robert and Wendy Palmer. And further, that council supports in principle the proposed severance subject to the following conditions. 1, payment of taxes, including penalty and interest. 2, settlement of 5% parkland dedication and cash in lieu in the amount of $250 for the severed parcel shall be paid to the Township of Algonquin Highlands pursuant to Section 51(1) of the Planning Act. 3, copy of the draft reference plan be submitted to the planner of the Township of Algonquin Highlands for review and comment prior to the registration of the plan. 4, a severed parcel merged and title with the benefiting lands. 5, confirmation the right-of-way knowing as Cog Bay Drive will continue to provide uninterrupted access for those who currently use it. 6, severed lands being rezoned to shoreline residential SR2. And 7, site plan agreement for the retained lands be amended to the satisfaction of the planner.
All in favor? It's carried. Thank you. Sorry, I'm on the wrong place in the agenda. Weeb, the neighbor.
Yes, so this is the other portion of the lot addition. Again, it's a small portion of land. This is approximately 0.19 acres to be added. Same conditions are being recommended, and this property, the retained land, are also under site plan control. So the exact same conditions as the previous application would be recommended for the same reasons.
Any questions, thoughts from council? Go ahead.
By Councillor Short, second by Councillor Berry. Be it resolved that council receives report PL 8622 prepared by Sean O'Callahan and dated August 11, 22 regarding proposed severance of lands located on part of Lot 19, Concession 11, Geographic Township of Sherburne, Weeby, Coagama Lake, submitted by Alan Fletcher on behalf of Michael and Lee Weeby. And further, that council supports in principle the proposed severance subject to the following conditions. 1, payment of taxes, including penalty and interest. 2, settlement of 5% parkland dedication or cash in lieu in the amount of $250 for the severed parcel shall be paid to the Township of Algonquin Highlands pursuant to Section 51(1) of the Planning Act. 3, a copy of the draft reference plan be submitted to the planner of the Township of Algonquin Highlands for review and comment prior to the registration of the plan. 4, the severed parcel merge in title with the benefiting lands. 5, confirmation the right-of-way known as Cog Bay Drive will continue to provide uninterrupted access to those who currently use it. 6, severed lands being rezoned to shoreline residential SR2. And 7, the site plan agreement for the retained lands being amended to the satisfaction of the planner.
All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Next up is sorry, just making a note. Irwin, I believe is next. No, sorry, ABC. Oh, yeah, sorry, C, Dimensions. Yes, Dimensions is next. And Ms. Berry will leave the room as she's declared a conflict. Okay, Sean, take us away. We are, the public meeting was at the last meeting, and this is our follow-up from the questions raised there. So take us away, please.
Yes, as council will recall, this zoning bylaw amendment, the public meeting was held at our last meeting on July 21st. At that meeting, several questions were raised and the matter was deferred, and it is now coming back to council with some answers to those questions. And with a revised definition as well. So I'll start with the definition and its revisions and highlight those. So the use has gone from what was a medical facility to now a health and wellness service. It has also restricted the medical professionals available on the site to that only of a psychologist or registered psychotherapist. So no doctor would be permitted on the as a use on the property. A pharmacy has also been removed, the permitted use on the property, so a pharmacy would not be permitted there. Of the questions raised, staff did reach out to members of Health Canada, the College of Physicians and Surgeons of Ontario, and the Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks to help seek clarification on those questions. The answers to those questions are listed in my report, but I will go through them briefly here. So the question was raised about being able to have psilocybin on the property. In discussions with Health Canada, psilocybin can only be administered under the direct supervision of the prescribing doctor once a person has a personal exemption through Health Canada. So with this new definition and a doctor not being permitted on the property, it is my understanding that psilocybin would not be permitted then. So until future regulations are changed at a federal level, then that would be not permitted on the property.
And if I can interject too, just to clarify that should Health Canada continue to move ahead with any legalization in that regard, it would not be within our jurisdiction at that time anyway. It would be beyond us. Just like cannabis, it would be the same thing. I mean, it's not the same as cannabis, but it would be the same in that the jurisdiction lives outside of this chamber, just to clarify that. Okay, carry on.
A question was also raised at the meeting with respect to a pharmacy and whether it would be required to provide psilocybin. And now that a pharmacy is not permitted in this proposed zone, that question is not particularly relevant. Also with the prescribing doctor not being able to be on site, again, psilocybin would not be able to be present on the property. Questions were raised with respect to the septic system on the property. So after further investigation, the Ministry of Environment has clarified that no review of the system on the property is required because of the change or proposed change in accessory use. They would only review the septic system at a point of additional fixture units such as sinks or toilets or showers being added to the property. And so no further review of the septic system is required at this time.
Any questions or thoughts, follow-ups from council on those 4 questions that came from the last meeting? Deputy Mayor Danielson?
Not specific to those 4 questions.
Okay. Well, let's Sean carry on, and then we'll circle back.
I don't really have anything further to add at this point, other than based on this additional information, staff are recommending approval of the bylaw amendment as it's presented, and happy to answer any questions should council have any.
Okay, thank you for that, and I appreciate the work that you've done on this. You know, it's a new sort of cutting edge model, and you know, some folks are concerned about it. I'm a little surprised that, not surprised, that you know, we've had the public meeting, it's been in the newspapers, and there is no, you know, legion of either support or opposition. I don't know if you'd call that indifference or what you'd call that, but we have heard quite a lot from 2 people, 2 folks who did provide some very detailed feedback and, you know, good well-researched feedback for us at the public meeting. But I certainly haven't heard, I don't think anyone else has from anybody else beyond that. I think the biggest concern, and we all share a concern with septic systems. I mean, we have our own septic inspection program here, and we know that with a property of this size, that the septic system falls outside of our jurisdiction, and that the septic and what might be, you know, going in the septic has been pointed out and is of concern to the folks that have raised those concerns. And I think You know, on the one case, there is, on one hand, there's absolutely a case for the MOE to be changing its operational model with the increased use of, you know, the legalization of cannabis and the increased use of recreational drugs. But that's not for us to do. Like we have no control over that. So we wouldn't hold up an application. We don't have any right or authority to hold up an application while we lobby the government for something that even if they wanted to answer the phone about it, would take years and years and years and years to effect any change on. So a little bit of a rock and a hard place there, but I do want to acknowledge that in regards to the septic system, we have heard the concerns of those folks loud and clear. We just simply have no jurisdiction. We can't make the government do what it's not prepared to do unless there was, you know, a larger lobby across the province. And I would point out too that there are lots of things being consumed all over Algonquin Highlands and beyond, either in homes or cottages or resorts, and we don't have any authority to look at those either, unfortunately. Deputy Liz, you wanted to say something around this application.
I'm not sure you've left anything left to say.
Oh, okay, sorry. No, I'll say it again.
No,
So it's not just coming from me.
It's, I did have one question for Sean. I know that at the end of the last meeting, where the applicants were present, there was some, it sounded like there was some agreement to work on things together. Are they accepting of where we've landed now?
Who?
Not that dimensions, and I mean, not that has an influence on, you know, what our decision would be, but you know, there did sound like there was going to be a cooperative discussion.
Yeah, I think they immediately began to work with Sean, and the document, the bylaw before us that has been substantially reduced from the first one is due to that collaborative work, is it not, Sean?
Yes, that is correct. I did work with Dimensions and their representatives to come to this new definition. So it is my understanding they are in agreement with it.
Go ahead.
I as well. I wanted to acknowledge the work of the two folks who made presentations to us at the last meeting. There was a lot of in-depth research done by both. And in response to that, you know, accepting, as you said, Mayor Moffat, that it is outside of our jurisdiction. I wonder if going forward at various levels, if there couldn't be some, you know, delegations or some encouragement, lobbying to upper levels of government to look at changing the models of water sampling and water testing. I mean, we talked about doing water testing programs at the county, and it's obvious, given that there are so many more things going into the lakes and having an impact on them, whether that's not something that we can continue to just keep an eye on. I'm not saying that there would be any level of success with respect to that, but you know, I think there are some opportunities to at least try to address, given the, you know, our concern about the health of the lakes. Finally, having read the changes and amendments that are being proposed, I don't have any issue with giving approval to the application at this point.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I'm going to throw the ball back in your court, Madam Warden. You'll recall a number of years ago when we put up a big fight about the jurisdictional gap around septage spreading fields. We found ourselves in a similar situation where the legislation at the upper level superseded our own municipal planning processes. That was really frustrating, but we did push, and there were a number of changes that were made. Not that anything too noteworthy came out of it, other than we pushed enough that we were heard. You know, there was a change in how applications were reviewed. There was a conversation held at one of the conferences where there were commitments made about field spreading in the province. However, then there was a change of government, and that didn't come to fruition, which is unfortunately often the case. Surely this can't be the only place where this is happening. I know that Dimensions on Maple Lake in Algonquin Highlands is pretty one of a kind, but perhaps that's something you could take to the Warden's Caucus table, that maybe the Warden's Caucus, if those 13 jurisdictions could do a little digging in their own files and find out, that recreational drug use has changed with the legalization of cannabis, and maybe it doesn't matter to the ministry, but maybe it does. And the least we can do is get the biggest lobby group we belong to, which is the Wardens Caucus, representing some 750,000 taxpayers across the province. And in good faith, respectful of the submissions these folks have made, is even though we have no jurisdiction today on this application, we can commit to take it forward and ask the wardens if they would be interested in putting that on their list of things they might have a little look at as a bigger group. There's a lot more bigger resorts south and east of us, so that might be something they might be interested in. I think that's probably the best we can offer, is to at least carry the conversation forward. So Deputy Mayor Danielson has made her position clear on the application. She's satisfied with the changes that have made that really tightens down the use on that property. What are your thoughts, Councillor Shortreed?
You both have covered everything, and
Oh.
I'm in complete agreement.
Well, there you go. Sean, is there anything else that we need to talk about?
Nope, not with respect to this application. It sounds like council is supportive of it, so.
And we do know that should there be any requests for additional buildings on the site in the future, that because it's an at-capacity lake, there was not the need at this application for any particular studies in the world of planning, but it'll be under site plan control. Is that correct?
Yes, so any additional structures on the property would require a site plan amendment to the existing site plan on the property. And at that time, staff would review if additional studies would be required to support that additional development.
Okay, yeah, because it is an at-capacity lake. So, okay, well then I think that's where we've landed, and I guess we would officially welcome dimensions to Algonquin Highlands. Go ahead.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Danielson, seconded by Councillor Shortreed. Be it resolved that council receives report PL 9722 regarding the rezoning of lands located at part of lot 28, concession 5, geographic township of Stanhope, Maple Lake, submitted by Sean O'Callaghan, dated August 11th, 2022, and that council, in accordance with section 10002 of the Planning Act, allows this proposed zoning bylaw amendment to be tabled for consideration, and that council directs a bylaw be tabled for consideration during its regular meeting.
All in favor? I'll put my hand up because there's three of us. That's carried. Irwin is next. Oh, yes, sorry. I'm going to carry on without her. Welcome back. We are at item D, a shore road closing in the name of Irwin on Kawagama.
Yes, so this is the bylaw to close the shore road allowance in front of this property on Kawagama Lake. It was circulated for comments to the various commenting agencies and to adjacent property owners. No objections were received or easements requested, so staff would recommend approval of the bylaw.
Questions, thoughts, comments from council? Oh, go ahead, please.
Moved by Councillor Berry, second by Councillor Shortreed. Be it resolved, council receives report PL 9822 regarding proposed shore road allowance closing, fronting property located at part of lot 28, concession 13, geographic township of Sherburne, Irwin, Kawagama Lake, submitted by Sean O'Callaghan, dated August 11th, 2022, and that council deems the said shore road allowance to be surplus and directs a bylaw to stop up closing of the said shore road allowance be tabled for further consideration.
All in favor? That's carried. And same again for Tisdale on Cushog.
Yes, this is another bylaw to close the shore road allowance in front of this property. Again, it was circulated to the commenting agencies as well as adjacent landowners, and no objections received or easements requested. So staff would recommend approval of the bylaw.
Questions, comments, thoughts? Go ahead.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Danielson, seconded by Councillor Shortreed. Be it resolved, Council receives report PL 9922 regarding proposed shore road allowance closing, fronting property located at part of Lot 2, Concession 7, Geographic Township of Stanhope, Teesdale, Cushag Lake, submitted by Sean O'Callahan, dated August 11th, 2022, and that Council deems the said shore road allowance to be surplus and directs a bylaw to stop up closing and pay the said shore road allowance be tabled for further consideration.
All in favor? That's carried. Gorman, Jones, and Raymond.
Yes, this is a joint application to close the shore road allowance in front of 3 properties on Cushag Lake. This is the bylaw to close the shore road allowance. It was circulated to the prescribed agencies as well as the neighboring property owners. No objections received or easements requested, and staff would recommend approval of the bylaw.
Questions from, thoughts from council? Go ahead.
Moved by Councillor Barry, second by Deputy Mayor Danielson. Be it resolved, Council receives report PL 122 regarding proposed shore road allowance closing fronting property located at part of Lot 3, Concession 2, Geographic Township of Stanhope, Gorman, Jones, and Raymond, Cushag Lake, submitted by Sean O'Callahan, dated August 11th, 2022. And the council deems the said shore road allowance to be surplus and directs a bylaw to stop up closing and obey the said shore road allowance be brought forward for be tabled for further consideration.
All in favor? It's carried. Thank you. A proposed road allowance closing in the name of Sod on Maple Lake. Tell us a story there, Sean.
Yes, so this is an application to close the shore road allowance in front of this property. This has been an ongoing matter that I'm sure council is well aware of between this property and the adjacent property. Given that this property is located in a bay of Maple Lake, the straight line projections is not an appropriate way to proceed. So this does have a deviated side lot line that was directed by council. So this application is in accordance with that direction. I would note that some trees were removed from the shore road allowance in front of this particular property, and the county did investigate and did issue an order against the property. It was actually against the township, given that it's currently township property. So the property owner has prepared a replanting plan, which has been reviewed by county staff. Staff are recommending that replanting plan be a condition of the sale of this shore road allowance, should council wish to sell it. And that way the trees would need to be replanted before the lands are actually transferred to this property owner. Staff are recommending approval of the proposed shore road closure, and I'm happy to answer any questions should council have any.
I think you'll find that the ongoing unresolved challenges around these properties are food for thought. The hands are already a hand up, so go ahead.
Just a question. We've got a plan attached to the application, and I'm just wanting to make sure that the line extension is as we recommended. So that's the line that we're working with, and that will be the line that we deal with.
That is correct.
Okay, because I've seen several iterations of plans, and it just was kind of getting a little bit hard to determine, okay, which ones is the valid one. So if we're going with that, I don't have any other questions, but I do have a comment to make. It was my understanding that when we first discussed this, that the provisions that were put forward to both applicants were to remove certain things from the shoreline, and that no consideration, or there should be no further development or action on what is municipal land or the shore road allowance until approval was given to acquire the shore road allowance. And unfortunately, in the case of one of the applicant, that's not the case. And I have a real issue with, I guess it's, I just have an issue with it. I can't agree to sell the shore road allowance, given that he has failed to meet our initial requirements and requests.
Thank you for that. Thoughts from other members of council, Councillor Barry?
I support and feel the frustration in this. One of my questions was in the fact that we did proceed with selling the shoreline, would the lot line dock be part of the sale? Like, would it be, would that be on, I guess not on title, but would it be part of the agreement?
The agreed upon line.
Mhm.
So council picked the line
Mhm.
and that's the line. So Sean planted the stake where council directed the stake be planted, and that is the new line, the end, like full stop.
Okay.
And so that's the new line that's in your package.
Mhm.
That a potential shore road allowance sale would be based on.
And in writing as well, other than just a stake?
It's surveyed.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Shorty.
It's a little disappointing to see the work that's been done to our shoreline, so I'm in agreement as well.
Yeah, I mean, and I am too, and it's not often that we go against the recommendation of the planner. I think it is an uncomfortable situation. I don't believe that at this time this sale is in the best interest of the township. I think there is too much angst, an ongoing unresolved challenges, and we don't enter into neighbor disputes. But this is a dispute over land which we own, and we have the absolute authority to sell it or not sell it. What council could do, and we have done this in the past, is agree to consider this application again in the future if the two properties applications come at the same time. I fear that selling one while there is still an ongoing dispute is just going to create no end of problems. And I know in speaking about this to the CAO a few days ago, I remember full of stories, but there was a property with a different but similar dispute on Beach Lake, and it was years and years. And finally, the neighbors, I guess, got tired and agreed to deviate a line to accommodate the problem building. So, and all through that, we were asked to step in and referee, and we do not deal with name calling and aggressive behavior. We deal with land. And so I feel quite strongly as well that in this case, it's not in the best interest, and we need to ask both parties to find their way to bringing both of their shore road allowance closures together at the same time, so we can just wrap it up in one. And we've done that before. Go ahead.
A couple of questions in the interim. One, I'm a little bit concerned about the building that's showing crossing an extended property line with the lot to the north, and how that would be managed, or if there would be any conditions associated with that, if and when there was consideration to sell the shore road allowance. And I'm also wondering what happens with, I gather that the order for replanting is actually an order to the municipality. So how do we deal with that? I'm just like, it would be a simple thing to make it a condition of the sale, but if we're not going to sell it, how do we deal with the outstanding work order?
It's still a violation of the county tree preservation bylaw and needs to be upheld.
But it's a violation against us.
But go ahead.
I think, Sean, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but the property owner's name is also on it. Is that correct?
It's
Yes, that is correct. I would note, I'm not sure if they would have the authority to replant on our shore road allowance unless we granted that authority. That may be something we'd have to investigate further, but just a thought on that.
Well, I would think it's a pretty easy call to make that request. And if we have to have something in writing, then let's get it. You know, at the other table, we're working really hard to try and make sure that trees that shouldn't be cut don't get cut. So we need to make all best efforts to, as quickly as possible, ensure that this work gets done. If it hasn't already been done, I don't know that. But by all means, if that's a good point. So if you could find that out, we're not planting the trees. We didn't cut them down, even though they're on our property. So if you could find that out for us, Sean. So so that's council's decision on that. It's really unfortunate. I'm sympathetic to both parties. However, it's been a long number of months of being asked, council and staff and members of council being asked to weigh in on civil matters. Our issue and our authority lies in those pieces of shore allowance. So that will be the message back to those folks then, Sean. And we will hear more about it, no doubt. Sean, go ahead.
And just so I'm clear, then the message I will convey to the property owners that we will not entertain either application unless they come forward as a joint application.
Or they come forward at the same time. I think it would be, given the current situation, I think it would be a little too much to ask for a joint application. But I'm sorry, but you would end up being sort of mediator to say which meeting something might be coming to. We also need to make it very clear that, again, this is about a situation where we were asked to intervene. We intervened, council made a decision about a property line. That is not up for discussion or dispute. Council's made that decision. And that's given all that has happened in that area since then, that council has the right and has changed its mind about the sale being in the best interest until it's a little more amenable. So we would like them to come back at the same time, but not joint, because I think that would be asking too much, given the scenario. It's unfortunate. So is that council's final on that? Okay. It is denied. Do we need to put in the resolution about, I'm looking at Angie or Sean, about, and that we will determine, what action the township needs to, authority it needs to have or action to take around the assurance of the replanting. Those are terrible words, but can someone come up with something better? We want to tie it together. And then should it also, the resolution should say, I'm not sure what it says, and that council may consider this application again when both come forward.
I agree with the denial. The only part that I have a problem with that I think might be a little bit unfair, I think the whole thing is unfair, but at any rate, is the fact that if we deny it, then it's a whole new application and they have to pay a whole new set of fees. And is that correct?
That would be council's discretion. Council could defer it.
Which is kind of what I was thinking. However, to say defer gives a different message. There's a lot of reasons for deferral. And in fact, we're turning it down in this case. And that's where my kind of conundrum is. I mean, I want to deny it, but at the same time, I don't think it's fair to say, well, now you're going to have to pay all over again.
I agree. I hadn't even thought of that, but I agree. And I have no idea what language to put around that. Because of the uniqueness of this situation and the way we're all kind of treading carefully around it. Yeah, I think, I don't know how to say that we would, but waive the application fees for this applicant. Is that what you're looking for?
Well, or to say something to the extent of we're denying the application at this time. Should the application be resubmitted, that there wouldn't be a duplication of fees.
Okay, there you go. Yeah, it's just a unique and uncomfortable situation, and I don't think we need to make it worse than it is maybe going to be. Check your email. I think that's. Oh, yes, we can. Thank you for that. We can, well, John, sorry about that. Well, Dawn is, are you finished crafting?
John?
Confirmation on how you want to tie it into the tree planting.
We just want to say something that, and that, what did you say? Investigation, oh, you said about the fees.
I didn't talk about the replanting.
And that the replanting requirement will be further investigated by the planner. We need to find that out. Mr. Planner.
And just to further clarify that point, does council want to see the replanting take place before the application comes forward again?
Yes.
Okay.
We can quickly do the committee of adjustment minutes. Was there any comments, thoughts, considerations on those?
The only thing that did come out of the discussion at the end of the meeting, not related to any of the applications, was a concern by the committee about having to meet again in public. Now, I did explain that that was a decision that had been made by council in accordance with the other committees, like as council and committees as a whole. And that there was rationale for the meetings being held on Friday, so that when we're meeting in public or get back to meeting in public, it just makes things a little bit simpler for people that are coming up from the south and may want to come up on a weekend. The time of the meeting was set to allow people time to travel to come to a meeting, but there still was kind of a feeling that they would like to continue to meet via Zoom, and so I. Although I explained it, I just felt that I should let council know.
Was a unanimous decision of council that committees meet in public again? So they meet in public again.
Just kind of an information piece.
Okay. I mean, we actually forgot the committee of adjustment in that conversation and was brought back separately. And so, yeah, I appreciate their concerns. It's the convenience of meeting by Zoom has become, well understood and anticipated, but it has been the decision of this council that its committees meet in person. Should that change sometime in the future? That's for another day, but I get it, but that's not what this group voted on, so.
I hopefully made that clear.
Good.
They just.
Okay, we'll go back to the resolution for the shoreline application.
Moved by Councillor Short, second by Councillor Barry. Be it resolved, council receives report PL 10122 regarding proposed shore road allowance closing fronting property located at part of lot 29, concession 5, geographic township of Stanhope, Sade, Maple Lake, and that council denies application OSRA 1022 made to stop up closing of the shore road allowance fronting property located at part of lot 29, concession 5, geographic township of Stanhope, Sade, Maple Lake at this time, and should the applicant resubmit the application's fee shall be waived. And that the replanting requirement will be further investigated. And further, that council may revisit this request should both neighboring property owners submit applications at the same time.
Does that capture what you're looking for? Okay, you've heard that. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. And then we did just have a chat about committee of adjustment, so we can do that resolution.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Jansen, second by Councillor Barry. Be it resolved, council receives the July 28th, 2022 Committee of Adjustment meeting minutes for information.
All in favor? That's carried. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you.
External boards, is anybody meeting? Is the watershed council's meeting? Okay. Does anybody have anything else? Safety wellbeing plan. Sue Tiffin has been hired, and she, I believe, has started. You'd know that more than me.
She's starting this week.
Okay, good. I was heavily involved in the monitoring and developing of the plan, so she has reached out to me just to sort of have her a little bit of a chin wag on that. So we'll see. Look forward to her getting going. We've heard about the library. We just had the presentation. You are off to AMO, where the Wardens Caucus will meet and likely talk about EORN. Is there anything that you want to update us about EORN?
Not at this time. Sorry, not at this time. There have been some challenges with a tower that is in Dysart. And, you know, I mean, there's been quite a voice raised about that, and I believe it may even have been the location found not acceptable by the Dysart Council, which creates a problem overall with the project because it leaves a gap. And, you know, if there's, that was the preferred site, and if there can't be another site that's acceptable found, there will be a gap in service there, and that's unfortunate. And I just hope that we don't run into any of those kinds of circumstances here. I know that there's the ongoing struggle about we want service, but we don't want a tower. And, you know, you just can't have one without the other. So I think that there was a request for monopine towers as opposed to the standard tower, which it costs far more money and is outside the realm of the project. And there needs to be a greater number of towers if you're using the monopine because they're smaller towers. So that's a bit of a glitch in the project. Otherwise, things are moving ahead and pretty much on schedule.
Okay, thank you for that. I think that, and of course, Councillor Dayu is not here. So we have one item under general business. We have, are you going to speak to this? Who's going to speak to this?
I can. The council has received a petition from Val Jarvis. It contained 403 signatures regarding a option for backup paper voting for 2022 municipal election, and it's before council for your information.
Yeah, I appreciate the concern. We don't use tabulating machines, nor have we ever used tabulating machines, have we? So appreciate the concerns of the petitioners. They don't really apply to us. And anyway, I mean, those concerns looks like they should be, and looks like they have, you know, been sent to Elections Ontario or Canada, and in terms of the attached testimony from an individual, that's crushing. That's a crushing story, but it's nothing to do with the municipality. That's not we don't take care of that. So I'm happy to receive this for information.
I just did want to, for the record, clarify that because it talks about the activity at the county level, and it was not the acting CAO, it was the deputy clerk that spoke with myself as the warden, and we did not decide to kick the petition back to them. We simply advised them that it was not something that was handled at the county level, that we don't have elections, and that it was something that needed to be dealt with at the lower tier and by the clerks, and you know, also advised that the timing was probably far too late to make any change for this election should, you know, there be any possibility of that happening. So,
did I see a hand over here? Councillor Barry.
Just in regards to like voting in person, it's my understanding when we made the decision for this next election that if anyone needed to come to the office to vote on voting day, they would be able to vote in person. Is that correct?
Yes, that is. We're going to have a computer set up here in the chambers. So for any reason that somebody can't access voting by their telephone and they don't have internet, they're welcome to come in here. We also will have trained staff that can help them if required.
But it will still be electronic. It's not paper ballot.
Yeah, there's still people that want to vote in person. And I remember advocating that option, and I just wanted clarification.
Yep, that's always going to be in place. Okay, so resolution, please.
Moved by Councillor Barry, second by Deputy Mayor Danielson. Be it resolved that council receives for information a petition submitted by Val Jarvis containing 403 signatures regarding paper ballot voting for the 2022 municipal election.
All in favor? That's carried. Speaking of elections, I asked to have this on. We've talked about it on and off for a long time. Amalgamation, I think, is the story that two municipalities chose to elect their deputy mayor at large, and two chose to elect them internally after the election. And we've talked a lot about it of being in better alignment. And you know, the public is interested in, we're hearing it now, certainly around the shoreline bylaw about the right to elect certain people. So we have control over the deputy mayor's position. And so I wanted to ask council, this would not be for this election. It's way too close. It would be in 4 years, but just change that process to let the public select the deputy mayor to go to the county table. And we're looking for thoughts on that. I've supported it for years and thought I'd ask you guys. Go ahead,
Yeah.
Deputy Mayor Daniels.
Yeah, I actually, this is, I'm really pleased to see this. It's something that I too have brought up, I think, really in early days when I was elected. I've heard a number of comments over time, about the suitability of that. And I think it's the direction to take, particularly when people are seeing, someone who is appointed by 4 people, in a small municipality to have a voice at county council and then in turn, become the warden. And that's, I think people would be a lot more comfortable if that person was elected at large. The only question I've got is how that will, the domino effect is then we've only got 1 representative in Stanhope, which is a very large ward. Would we be considering changing the number of councillors that we've got, or would we be just having 1 ward rep for Stanhope, which could be a big job? I'm just sort of wondering where we go with the, kind of the impact of going in that direction.
Yeah, I hadn't thought of that part. I don't know that we want, I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Dawn and I have talked about this, and certainly that has all rolled around in her mind as well. So I think that it would be probably prudent to bring a report back with some of those thoughts to get further direction from council.
Like now's not the time to be adding elected officials.
No.
And with the advent of, just electronics and email, and there's just different ways of communicating. I have been the ward rep in Stanhope, where there's a second one, and you 2 are those reps now. I don't know that that one person couldn't handle it. It's not an inundation on a daily basis. It's not like, here's my basket of rocks and I'm giving it to add to your basket of rocks. It would just be a different approach. But that would be, we would wait for a report, but go ahead.
Yeah, there really isn't an inundation. It's kind of a slow, steady thing unless there's a, burgeoning issue that comes up, and that does happen and things become, but that's what we all signed up for. I guess I'm just wondering about the only other question I would have of yourself, Angie or Dawn, would there be any thought of changing the ward structure? Or is that is that something that's cast in stone or determined by the province, or I don't know how the actual wards are set in the first place and whether it's necessary or not.
Well, that's just food for thought for a report, because right now all we're offering is our semi-unenlightened opinions.
Yeah,
so if council's interested in pursuing making in 2026, electing the deputy mayor at large, there's lots of, if that's a yes, then there's lots of time. There's 2 years to figure out the rest.
Just one more point. When I look at the workload, when you look at, for instance, Oxtongue Lake, which is, I don't know what the numbers are, but I think, it's probably the smaller number of population. Then you get into, the Dorset area, which is larger, but the Stanhope area is much broader. Can one person handle it? Probably, but it's a different workload distribution for 3 councillors.
It's a different workload for a new deputy mayor. So that has to be considered too. And if we'll, bring back the oft discussed issue of local elections. We're facing one, and there are holes in nominations, not only across Haliburton County, but across the province. We need to pay people more, and the public needs to make sure it fully understands what the job requires and elects the people that are appropriate to do that job. So it's a two-way street. I think there's a lot of work to be done on that.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly more and more as people are having more to say about local government, some good and some not so good, is I think everybody has to up their game, if it were. Not that anybody isn't, doing well now, but times are changing, and I think it's incumbent upon us to recognize that and make the changes that are appropriate to face the needs. We've got, and I'm sort of going off on a bit of a tangent, but we've deliberately put in place a communications coordinator to better communicate with the public so we can have a better pulse of what people are thinking out there. And but people are making their decisions on social media as opposed to calling us or calling staff. So we can't change that, but we can continue to make the changes that we can make to ensure that more people want to be around these kinds of tables and contribute in community growth. So it's one step. The deputy mayor position is one step. So we'll leave it with staff to craft out what that looks like. I think I hadn't thought about changing boundaries at all. That kind of makes my head spin, but I don't think it's necessary. I think if the right people are elected, the one person in each ward should be able to do the job, unless they have, a full-time job and 3 kids at home, then it's going to be a challenge.
But that's the sort of thing that you have to take into consideration when you put your name forward. I mean, everybody has their own personal challenges. The last question that I would have about that is do either of you know what the timing is? Like, how much time is required to have that in place before an election?
No, I don't off the top of my head. I would have to.
I'm assuming that 4 years is a lot of time, that we should be able to accomplish that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, particularly if it comes back that, let's just say that there's interest in changing ward boundaries. I just think, but if that was the case, then it's, now you're building, okay, now what does that take? Oh, we have to undertake this and go through this process, and that requires this amount of time. So that would all come forward. And it may be simply a case of make the deputy mayor elected at large. It may be a reassignment of some duties internally, because they both sit at the county table, but the deputy mayor, again, there's often a confusion about the mayor and deputy mayor. The mayor and deputy mayor are not interchangeable figures of equal authority. The only position, it's like the warden, the only position that has any greater authority under the Municipal Act is the head of council. So sometimes people will say, on occasion, people have said to me, oh, don't worry, I asked Liz. No, my question is, well, she's not my second in command. The deputy mayor is the person chosen in our case by council to be the one to step up if the mayor can't or won't act. But they don't, under the Municipal Act, they don't have any special duties. At the county, there's one warden, there's a deputy warden, but the deputy warden it's the same. The deputy warden is not an interchangeable authoritative body. It's just the person chosen to step in when and if needed. So if we're going to elect the deputy mayor at large, that's the other thing to consider is what does that mean in terms of committee appointments, or there's lots
responding.
There's lots to talk about. Yeah, it could be a good conversation. So Lisa, Councillor Barry.
Well, I understand the way it works, but I think if you were I'm just thinking up in Oxtongue, if you're a taxpayer up in Oxtongue and you had a concern about the library board, naturally they would come to the mayor because that sits at the county level, but they could also come to the deputy mayor with their concerns as well as their ward rep, but then their ward rep would probably speak with you. You know what I mean? I think by having it a clear-cut position opposed to a ward rep and a deputy, it's clear you have an issue you want resolved in your ward, that you have your ward rep.
You should go to your ward rep first. Yeah.
First, and then up the chain of command.
Yeah. And then some people just call who they like.
Yeah.
Like, I don't mean as in they just call who they choose. They call the person with whom somebody they know or with whom they already have a rapport. The old stick to your ward. Those lines have all been well modeled over the last number of years. So,
and then there are people, they just want to go straight to the job.
Or they want to hear both of your opinions on something at the county table.
Yeah, when it comes to the county, absolutely. Yeah, there's two voices there.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so thank you for that. I'm glad we brought it forward, and we'll leave it with staff. I don't know if something will come back while I'm still here, probably not, but good luck carrying on with that conversation.
Well, thank you for that.
Well, we have 3 months left, so but because it's not urgent, it's not an urgent issue. There's a number of years and there's lots going on. So I don't know when you think you might see that coming back. I have nothing for that. Okay, so it's just a direction. There are no notices of motion correspondence. Anything get moved forward? Okay, may I have a resolution for the report?
Moved by Counselor Berry, second by Counselor Shortreed. Be it resolved, Council receives the August 11th, 2022 correspondence listing for information.
All in favor? That's carried. We are now moving into closed session. So if anybody out there is watching, thank you for being with us today.
On the correspondence summary, I've got to say, I mean,
Oh, they turned us off before we went into closed. Resolution to go into closed.
Moved by Counselor Berry, second by Counselor Shortreed. Be it resolved, Council hereby adjourns its open session at 11:33 a.m. in order to proceed into closed session in accordance with Section 239(2) of the Municipal Act 2001 SO 2001 as amended for the purposes of 1, labor relations or employee negotiations, Section 239(2) of the Municipal Act 2001, changes to roles and workload of employees. 2, personal matters about identifiable individuals, Section 239(2)B of the Municipal Act, discussion regarding candidate for council committee.
All in favor? It's carried. Okay, thank you. We are reconvened and we'll have a resolution to resume the open session.
Closed session at 11:58 a.m. and open session resumed.
All in favor? That's carried. Bylaws.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Jansen, second by Counselor Shortreed. Be it resolved, the following bylaws be received and read a first time, considered read a second and third time, and finally passed with the corporate seal affixed. 2022-78 to stop up, close a convey part of the original shore road allowance in front of lot 28, concession 13, geographic Township of Sherburne, Irwin. 2022-79 to stop, close, and convey the original shore road allowance in front of lot 2, concession 7, geographic Township of Stanhope, Teasdale. 2022-80 to stop up, close, and convey parts of the original shore road allowance in front of lot 3, concession 2, part of lot 3, concession 2, designated as road allowance on registered plan 372, geographic Township of Stanhope, Gorman et al. 2022-81 to amend bylaw 2022-49 as amended, being the comprehensive zoning bylaw of the Township of Algonquin Highlands, application AHZBA 1021 Horde. 2022-82 to amend bylaw 2022-49 as amended, being the comprehensive zoning bylaw of the Township of Algonquin Highlands, application AHZBA 622 Allen. 2022-83 to authorize the execution of an agreement with Trackmatics Inc. for supply of delivery of AVL GPS equipment. 2022-84 to authorize an Ontario transfer payment agreement with the Minister of Northern Development Mines, Natural Resources and Forestry with respect to the Stewardship Youth Ranger Program. 2022-85 to amend bylaw 2022-49 to amend as amended, being the comprehensive zoning bylaw of the Township of Algonquin Highlands, application AHZBA 00422 Dimensions Health Maple Lake Inc.
All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Confirmatory bylaw.
Moved by Counselor Berry, second by Counselor Shortreed. Be it resolved that bylaw 2022-86 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council be received and read a first time, considered read a second and third time, and finally passed with the corporate seal affixed.
All in favor? It's carried. And adjournment.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Dennison, second by Counselor Berry. Be it resolved that council adjourns its regular meeting at 12:01 p.m.
All in favor? It's carried. Thank you, ladies. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We are adjourned. Enjoy the day.